Probably in the last 2 years, I've probably been involved in more than managers go through in their full career. At the time, I lost my dad during the playoffs, just before one of the games. We've also been in the playoff final, playoff semi-finals, lost in penalty kicks. Some managers probably won't get to that in their full career, and I'm lucky that within the first 2 years of my managerial career, I got to experience huge highs, but also, like I said, some really sad lows in there as well. So I literally came for junior football. Ian McCall believed in me as a player. When I was eventually given the job, I was determined to do a good job for him. I came in, I picked up a good squad. I picked up a squad that with good players, talented players, everything you would be looking for. You can't really justify what's happening behind the scenes at any football club, so we've done a good job. First and foremost, we've done a good job. I think we're left with a 40-odd% win rate. At any championship club, to leave with a win ratio of that is good. And I think fans appreciated what we've done over the last 2 years, but also maybe what I've brought in terms of the 10.5 years where I was there as a player as well. So that bond's always there. I think the fans know that I would put the work in. That's just me as a person. I'm a grafter, I'm a worker. I come from a family that's like that. And I've done that in every game that I played, and also done it every day as a manager. So across the 2 years, I think for a club like Thistle to be in the playoffs, final, playoff semi-final, and back in a playoff place is heading towards success.
Partick Thistle are in the box seats, but they're not quite there yet. Can Ross County become the first side to turn round a 2-goal deficit in the playoff final?
We've listened to the Partick Thistle fans singing all game about how they're going to get promotion.
And they now have a 3-goal advantage to take into the second half.
Partick Thistle were 3-0 up at half-time on aggregate in that match. I think it was one of the Ross County players had said afterwards that they were motivated because they felt that Partick Thistle were celebrating at half-time. Was that the case?
No, absolutely not. Not in our dressing room. Unless it showed on the park that was what the feeling was. We knew we had a job to do. I wouldn't allow the players to behave like that, if I'm honest. It's about being professional, and the job's not done. So to me, no, look, we had our heads on it. I think the fatigue played a massive part in it. And I don't like making excuses. I'm not the type to make excuses for anything. I do think the setup makes it difficult, very, very difficult. But there was no celebrating at half-time. Like, we knew we had a job to do. Even at 3-0 up, the game wasn't over. We would have celebrated at the end, certainly not at half-time.
Stands up to the back post, big chance, there's a goal! George Harman sends it to extra time, surely!
Seeing that last game, certainly that last 20 minutes, we were well aware that players were out on their feet. And there's only so much you can ask of individuals to keep their focus, keep their concentration, and you've played so many games in a short space of time. But once it gets to penalties, like I say, it's just a total lottery.
It's Josh Sims, he scores! And County, at 3 goals down in the tie, have somehow clawed their way back.
Obviously, after that Ross County game, the budget gets cut, regardless. You're staying in the championship, there has to be cuts. And after that Ross County defeat, when there was the changes to the budget, we finished third. We finished fourth the year before. With less money now, we actually finished third. We found a way to do it. We found good players to bring in, get them into the way we want to play, and we're still in those playoff positions like we're always tasked with. And like I say, that's not just myself, that'll be every manager before me and after me, because that's what the club needs to be in. They need to be in that mix to try and get in the Premier League. I think the biggest thing is if there's a settled setup behind the scenes, you'll get a settled team on the pitch. I think they go hand in hand. If the club can settle down, behind the scenes, and you can almost, that'll filter down through into the playing side of things.
And it's not settled behind the scenes at the moment.
I think just now I think behind the scenes it's getting better. I just think if they can settle that better than they are just now and make it stronger, then things will get better on the pitch as well. When I looked around, we moved 8 or 9 players in December, January time, and didn't bring anybody in. And I think that kind of says...
Was that just the budget cuts?
Aye, it was literally just the club having to claw back money. And to not strengthen in January, I think was a big mistake. If you're in the playoff positions, how many managers lose their jobs in a playoff position? But I also understand that if Partick Thistle, if they slip out the playoffs, then there's financial repercussions. For me, you know, if the club finished 5th, I would have walked away. And I would have left the club and I'd have saved the club money. I would have, you know, would have made sure that the club could...
Because that would have been a failure for you.
That would have been, yeah, absolutely. I was told to make the playoffs. Had we strengthened in January, those results I think would be different. But you can't always look back. For me, it's about looking forward all the time. But whether you agree or you disagree, I think you have to be professional in the way you go about things, and I have to accept that that's the decision. And the club will move on and they'll get a new manager, and hope that manager does well.